This is the Women Emerging Expedition podcast, so you can follow the ups and downs and the roundabouts of the expedition and play your part in them. 24 women started on the 28th of May 2022 on this virtual expedition that will take 9 months. We are women from across the world determined to find an approach to leadership that resonates with women. We'll be successful so that women the world over will be able to say, if that's leadership, I'm in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Julia Middleton, Expedition Leader. This week's episode is unlike others. There's still 2 interviewees, but they're both from the same country. They're both Polish and they're both musicians. They are, however, different. They are 10 years apart in their careers, of different generations. Martyna is an incredibly famous conductor of an orchestra, a gloriously structured entity that she leads very much from the front and accepts the responsibility of leading very much from the front. And Anna, who is 10 years younger than her, a chamber musician, which means that she knows about leading collectives and leading very much from the middle. Anna also is a member of the expedition, an extraordinary violinist. Both Polish, and I loved speaking to them both about leadership and about leadership in a world that I know so little about of music. Let's start by getting Anna to tell us a little bit about what she saw Martyna do that was so different from other conductors she'd ever seen. So Anna, you told me that Martyna is incredibly physical in her conducting and therefore leading.
When you see her leading, is just it's like a dance, but not dance for look at me how I move, but let's be together with the shape of phrase. Let's be together in the meaning.
Do you do this consciously, Martyna?
I would say I guess I know the power of a gesture as someone who normally adores going to the theater. The way the actor appears on the stage tells so much more than words, and some of them do not manage to appear so powerful as the silent ones, but really glorious, no, with a glorious posture. And then you think like you can say so many things just by the way you look, or just by the position of the chin. You know, you can be just proud and unbeatable because your chin is slightly higher, and then you can be modest because you put it lower. And then of course we do, as human beings, we do read it, we do react on those little gestures because we are trained to do it. All the body language is like this. So you can influence someone else by this beautiful suggestion of interpretation, certain phrases as well, you know, speaking and but playing, but not taking away the freedom of interpretation. So you can suggest, but you don't take the freedom of feeling creative. And then I thought, like, that's the first thing, how to appreciate intellectually appreciate players so they can give what they want, but you still maneuver slightly what you want to get, what will probably fit to some others in the ensemble. And then there is another thing. I just think simply that we should use much more body and what we know as humans to what we know for being together. If the dancers can actually dance together, if we can dance with the aunt or uncle on the wedding, you know, party, and actually synchronize much faster than some of the orchestra players, we should probably learn from the wedding parties, because it takes, I don't know, I mean, suddenly dancing with the old aunt, you adjust the tempo of dance, you adjust the steps, you measure the movements, you take care, you know, you suddenly remember that she had a problem with the right hand, so you shouldn't press it too much, you know, suddenly all these things, the sensitivity, intuition suddenly plays a huge role, because you cannot talk about all of those little elements. to dance 2, 3, 5 minutes. And you actually do dance in a different tempo, in a different dynamic. You discover someone else, you discover the music, using all the things except for verbalization. So yes, I do actually thought how to make it really working very efficiently. So you do have influence, but you don't take away the freedom, because I think the freedom is element that musicians and artists value a lot. They are not so easy to give up, to give up and to give in the liberty. It's like, I would say we are all slightly French, slightly individual. We just don't want to lose our individuality as an artist. And I would say that's probably why you need to suggest, but not force. It works basically on everything. You go to the shop and you say smiling good morning, and the whole atmosphere, the temperature, raises. I mean, suddenly there is more sun if someone smiles. And I think it's one of those things, like, don't forget to smile. And it's the same during work. If there is a trouble, the troubles are never so big that you cannot smile. And you think, like, yeah, that sounds like a, like kind of American one sentence advice. But we do react. It seems like we do react on this body language very, very much, and the facial expressions and the gestures on the invitation. Like conducting or doing something with people, it's a lot about moving hands. Some of them can be more stiff. Some of them can be really embracing. I do it the last 20 years. I would still think about how to do it without verbalization.
Actually, that made me think about one of the most incredible exercise I had done with my quartet, my previous one. We were asked to play backwards. We were facing our backs, so we couldn't see each other and we couldn't touch each other. And still we were listening. But, that was incredible, because at one moment, someone asked us to smile while playing. And, that made a change. And we didn't know in which moment we smile. Like, smile in the moment you think it's right. So we didn't know when is the moment. But actually, the teacher who was standing behind us said, you were playing differently when you were smiling all in the one moment. And, this was also the thing I heard at one of the rehearsal. There was an American conductor, Larry Livingston, and he said, allow your body to smile. And I was at the first year of studies. I was very serious and I was very ambitious. And now I will, show all I can show. And he was, you're too serious. Just allow your body to smile. And as a sudden, that was a big change in the communication. That's first, but the second, in your self-feeling, you don't need to fight.
Martyna, you like leading from the front.
We do have different characters. I've been given one that indeed works best in the front. I wouldn't say that it's particularly easy to lead from the front, but then I always think it's about being responsible and a little bit ethical. If you've been given certain character, naturally, it's difficult when you go into the room, you enter the room and everyone's silent. Suddenly there is a silence because you enter the room. You can actually, it's very intimidating, no? But it's the body language. You just go into the room and then everyone notices you. It's been like that since I remember. And I try to make it the smartest I can, the most gentle I can imagine. But it's much more visible than someone else going into the room. And then you think like, well, it's a duty behind it. No, there is a duty behind that thing. So it's been given because I should use it. So I learn how to use it. It's not the easiest for the emotions, however.
How do you cope with that emotional thing of being? I remember one of my children, my middle daughter, when she was a baby, if all the eyes turned to her, she used to burst into tears. she was fine as long as people weren't looking at her. How do you cope with, and many leaders have this challenge, you accept the responsibility occasionally of being the leader from the front, but that makes you incredibly visible and incredibly vulnerable to your mistakes.
Yes. The biggest impact on that balance between uncomfortable situation and satisfaction was to discover that you go on the stage. People actually came here because they want to listen to something beautiful. And it's like a service more than actually, it's like a service. That's what I think. Playing music, being on a stage, doing things that, no one in the government thinks it's really so important because the first cut of the budget goes always to the culture. Actually, people need it. I mean, I feel the need to see the beautiful sculptures on paintings. So people come there and they want something, they need something. And then we just do, that's a service. And then you can add a lot of testosterone to the female body to have the will to go and show off, to get the will to lead, to get the will to actually share things. But you do need to raise a little bit testosterone level. And then I learned from these and from the sports techniques like the tennis or the ones, like boxing or something, that when you raise the level of testosterone, because it's extremely useful. And that was quite a huge difference when you actually learn that, like, for example, stretching the legs and just standing like the guard, on the borders. No, I mean, they stand in a special way. And then you think, like, of course, this stretched position of the shoulders and of hips, it's actually making you producing more testosterone than cortisol. So you actually are much more to win, to battle, to fight, to show, to appear, and to exist. And somewhere there, this power of existence is in this testosterone things. No, I mean, that's what makes these boys going on the stage and they're like a soldiers. And then I see girls trying to be so small, almost to shrink, with the, this position of having these shoulders so close to each other and then legs crossed and she's so small and she's so tiny and there is no will to exist somehow, to be presented on the stage. And I thought, like, maybe we could learn something. We can use it as well, all of those things, just to be a little bit more brave and do things that matters. That's what I thought.
Whereas Anna, you prefer to lead from the middle.
It has a lot in common with the things that Martyna said about visibility and invisibility, because I was raised as invisible. I was many years hidden. I took at the beginning. I took all ensembles and orchestra as kind of thing that I can hide in. I had a feeling of I want to be, meaningful. I want to have a meaning in this collectivity, but I was raised as a really, invisible girl. It was frustrating for me, but at the same time, I couldn't find a tool to overcome it. I remember there was 3 moments in my life. Then I decided just like that to be visible to myself first, and then to the others. I love being in the middle and just, inspire someone around me to go with me with the energy. Because, when you have the leader, for example, conductor who's very passionate about his job or her job, if it's a woman conductor, if they're treating themselves as a point and the only one source of energy, the whole orchestra, the energy is just is washed up. And at the end, at the edges, you have nothing. And people who have, can dig in their nose or, do whatever. But because they feel they're invisible and then have no meaning in the collectivity. And I remember there was 2 changing moments in my professional, also the social life. where I find out that I can be visible within my passion, being in the collective, not as a front leader, but within. I was a member of the European Union Youth Orchestra. And, I got there from the reserve list. I was trying 3 times, and the 4th time was a lucky one. But still, I got there because someone else couldn't come. That was in my head. I wasn't like, oh, okay, they chose me because I was good. But no, they chose someone else, and I am a replacement, And at the beginning, there was the first meeting. There was people who were already there from the previous edition, so they knew each other very well. And I felt that they invite me to this collectivity, but you can be one of us. So I will say, okay, I will adapt to them. I will follow what they do. And I will try to be still, again, invisible. And then there was a Marshall Marcus, which is the CEO, at that time was the CEO of EUIO. And he said something brilliant. And he said, don't think what you can screw up. Think what you can contribute to us. And then I felt I'm an important element that actually can give something more than something is showing. And there was a preparatory session, because each summer tour is starting with a Peter Starr conducting. And he's actually not the conductor who will lead us at the concert. He's just preparing us. And the aim of this session is to start to listen to each other and start to lead from the back. So he was just, by looking at us for the people at the back, I was playing the back of seconds, 7th stand, it's a huge collectivity, and you feel anonymous, you feel invisible. And then he started to look at us, not the way, I will check now if you were well prepared. No, he was like encouraging, embracing us from the backs to give more energy. And while we were giving more energy from the back, I felt I start to be visible, and I can lead from the back, and not against the conductor, but actually within the vision, the collective vision. And that was for me, actually the sound is like one. It's like you're not disconnected like this. The hands are playing, but the rest of the body is still. But now the full orchestra is playing, not just the fronts. We are together as one person.
But Martyna, this must be heaven when you achieve this as a conductor. You talked about the problems of, I'm checking my notes so that I get your words absolutely right. You need intellectual engagement with the orchestra, otherwise it feels feudal. And you talked to me about the sort of slave mentality. Explain that concept.
Well, the slave mentality, it's very interesting. It's like it's the ability to leave intellectual or emotional part untouched while you do something else with your hands. It can exist within every possible job. I mean, I understand it when you work in the slaughterhouse. I mean, that's a very useful ability. If there was an alcohol problem in a family and they had to learn how to switch off, or any other like a traumatic problem in a family, so they had to switch on and off, like the body still is doing washing, but the heart is not there and the mind is not there, it's empty. And then if you always been supervised by someone or forced to do something, as in most of the slaved countries, that was exactly the thing. And I still consider Soviet times in Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, and all these countries to be the slaved countries, because that's the mentality, apart from, the real slave or feudal that we consider to be 18th century. I still consider 20th century for this part of Europe to be still having this continuity in that slavery. It's that you do not take what is proposed as yours. You do not involve yourself intellectually or emotionally, because it's been not even given to you, but you just have to obey. So this is like, if you don't agree with someone else, if you don't agree with the oppressor, like the Soviet army or whatever, this thing that you refuse using your emotions and intellect, it's your only way of showing disapproval. The rest of it you do with the hands, but your head and the heart disapprove. And that mentality somehow is rooted very much. So we lost a little bit control over it. And then, of course, you need people that will break it. You need a new light. You need a new stream of hope, no? Like being integral, just having this thing really, the integrity that we work very much is the key word, I would say, for that. And you have to feel that the person on top, it's not your enemy, which was like that always, all these centuries. You never felt equal because always the one on top was someone given by the oppressor, given by your owner. Therefore, you do not address yourself towards that direction. I mean, you don't really turn towards that direction. There is someone that you have to somehow block your, against. And that's the problem with the feudal mentality. After the last time we talked, Julia, I just really had to put that so the definition is a little bit more shorter and clearer.
A beautiful definition, and it's not limited, of course, to Eastern Europe or to Muslim. It's this it exists everywhere, doesn't it? And it is the challenge of the leader not to be the enemy, but to persuade people to bring their whole selves to the task.
Exactly.
So how does the leader do it?
Well, first thing, when Anna started to speak, I thought, like, first thing, you need to really place people with the right character to the right place. Because if you really settle them wrongly, they will have a constant feeling of being not appreciated. So if either you work really hard on telling them when they are and why they are exactly in this place and not higher in the hierarchy, because it's a hierarchy. I mean, there is no question about it. But the person must be really content about the place person actually is settled. So first thing, really think very, very carefully. Leader, I think that would be fantastic, always not to make a mistake on where to and how to put people, with whom to pair them as well. So they feel comfortable and they feel appreciated. And if they have a new idea, or that you've got someone who always come with the ideas, they might not always work, and you never can be sure that this time will be successful moment. That would be good to find a less prestigious concerts, less prestigious moments that you can afford actually having someone fulfill their needs without losing prestige. So it would be good to know the dreams of people or the needs of people, or just notice what is the animal behind that behavior. I mean, someone just might need a solo few bars, just appear for a certain moment. That might be even not very well played, but he or she just got the moment and then was finding a reason why to get up in the morning. I mean, life is very long, and you get to know people for 30, 40 years, I guess, now, because that's how long we do play together. That's how long we work. And so I guess, the first thing is about leadership in this situation is actually to appreciate things and to place them in the right place in the orchestra. And I think it's many things, like techniques why you can make people and how you can make people feeling appreciated. Even knowing where are the limits for now of their artistry. Let's call it like this.
Anna, you're nodding and nodding.
I was thinking, I read in some book, I don't remember which one, I read that musicians were asked about what they're doing, what's their task. And the musicians who were answering by the real task, so I play in the third stand, I play in the tutti, they were less satisfied with the work than the people who are saying from the same position, from the same stand. They used to say, I play in the third stand, I contribute to the common tempo, or I contribute, not about what they do, but the contribution, the role in the collective playing made them feel they need it, because just the task of playing somewhere doesn't mean anything to them.
I don't want to miss this extraordinary expression you used, Martyna, that has stuck with me. You said to me, is another person's perception different from me because they see more or they see less than I do? It's a beautiful concept. I've never heard it before.
It's my father's concept. He told me, if I do differ with you and I'm 40 years older or 30 years older, do you think, why is that? Because you didn't make one circle of thoughts forward, or it's because I didn't make this circle? It's because I'm more stupid, or because I'm smarter and experienced? When I was 15, I got it. I must have been quite a difficult teenager, I guess, from that sentence. But I thought, like, that's incredible, because if you meet people that know something like faster and disagree with you, either they're not smart enough, but then half of the population would be not smart enough, which is hardly true. Or they do know different things, or they know better, simply more, because of their experiences, because of the age, of observations, of reading books, being there, knowing the mechanism. And then I thought, that's very probably true.
But it's also true that sometimes they don't see things because they don't see as much as you.
It is. I would rather assume that people see more than me, but I must say, I was very surprised how often people come back and they say, well, I didn't believe you the first time you said that, and I went there and it's really like you said, I didn't believe you, but you were right. And then I'm like, why don't you believe me the first time? Or why didn't you really approve on what I've said? And then I thought, like, people might not know so much about certain things as I do. That was a huge step, and it still is to accept the possibility. I was not very keen of accepting it. People might possibly see less or understand less from the situation than I do. And I think for girls, as I observed that in my pedagogical practice, for girls, this idea that I see more and understand more than others, it's not the natural and instinctive one. They would rather give that honor to someone else. And I think that makes a huge difference, because then you have to actually understand and distinguish between these two groups of people. It's not always easy. The instinct doesn't always go very much, doesn't follow that path of thinking I'm actually right. No. It takes a little bit more time.
Is that concept useful to you, Anna?
Yes, it's very hard, actually. It's a very difficult transition, 30 years old, to understand that actually you can guide something.
And that sometimes you're right.
And sometimes I'm right.
It takes a while to realize that, doesn't it?
It does.
Martyna, you told me that you loved the question that we've asked ourselves, which is, can we find an approach to leadership that resonates with women? And the word resonate was you said it was a good word. Why?
The more resonant instrument you've got, you take with you much more people, and you also give a much more beautiful qualities to what you produce, what the group produces. So the more resonant instruments you've got, the more resonant concert hall you have, the more beautiful and refined results you get. And the process is that the volume gets louder. I mean, that it goes up, the volume and the space. It goes really beautifully, filling in till the last chairs in the concert hall. I mean, the good concert halls, you can hear everything very well, in an extremely good volume, from every position in the concert hall, even if there are 3,000 people. So actually resonate is like you've got something that seems to be very small, but it gives you this ability of actually making everyone hear it on a much larger scale than only you think that you do. And then there is the better message you've got, the more refined effect and result you might get. I say that. And I thought like, that's a beautiful thing, because if something, it has this inner thing, that, but also it goes out. It has this movement of going in and out with a bigger impact. And I'm just playing on an amazing instrument. And I must say, one of the most appreciated luthier in the world, just being given to me, I don't know for how long, but I'm lucky. And then you understand that the more refined and beautiful idea, content you've got, the impact on reality is just simply bigger, and just raise the whole level of the message of the group. And I find that very beautiful, the word in the way you use it.
Martyna, you honour us by finding a way to express the word resonate in a way that was intended for us when we said we wanted to produce an approach to leadership that resonated with women. Because I love that concept. Resonate means that you fill the concert hall right to the last chairs, right at the back. The more you resonate, the more you are refined and beautiful in your output and have an ever greater impact. That's got to be our ambition for the expedition and for the approach to leadership that resonates with women. This episode, I think it's one of those ones that you're going to have to listen to once or twice, because there's so much buried inside. So many of the points about leadership, the ones that jumped out at me, is the power of the physical and the physical movements that suggest things to the team rather than imposing things on the team. I thought that was fascinating and beautiful, and reminded me of that episode where Kelly talked about leading a sports team, and how when she flicked her ponytail at the right moment with one particular member of the team, that member would see Kelly flick her ponytail and rise to the challenge, because that's what she knew Kelly wanted of her. The power of small, symbolic, physical movements in leadership. Very, very interesting. I thought that the way Martyna expressed the sense of duty in leading, even when it requires you to lead from the front, because that's what the role asks of you, that was something that I've thought about ever since. And then that counterbalancing with Anna saying, yes, but you can't be the only source of energy. And Anna's discovery that she could be visible even in the collective. Fascinating. And then Martyna's words about how as a leader you have to engage all the people in your orchestra or your team, not just to go through the motions, but to involve not just their hands in doing the task, but their minds and their hearts, and how to do that. So much in here that was fascinating. Thank you so much, both Martyna and Anna, for this glorious episode. So all I have to say now is don't forget that on Tuesday the 7th of February at 6 p.m. UK time, we will have our next live session, which will be on my LinkedIn profile and on the Women Emerging Facebook and Twitter pages. Join us with your questions. Join us with your thoughts. join us particularly because Anna, who's just been speaking on this episode, is going to join us for the live and answer all the questions you've got. And listening to Anna is a delicious experience. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Martyna. Thank you, Anna. Look forward to next week. Lots of love, Julia.
To become part of our movement and share your thinking with us, subscribe to the podcast and join the Women Emerging group on our website at womenemerging.org. We love all of the messages you send us. Keep them coming.